Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
And welcome into Two Guys, One Pod, Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Porter, joined by my co-host today, Addison. Addison, you are becoming a regular on here. Justin has a trip that he's attending to. I was coming back off of vacation. Thank you very much for stepping in on the first show of this week. How are you doing this week?
Oh, I am doing fantastic. As a Bears fan, who couldn't be happier? Like, this is Christmas morning. Our entire interior O-line's been swapped up, and I'm feeling good. And fall spring happened in Chicago. Love that.
Wait, say that again. What spring happened?
Fall spring. Do you guys not have fall spring in Arkansas?
We have a couple of them, honestly. It's the weather is never predictable, and right now it's about 75 degrees and sunny and just a slight breeze, and I fully expect to be in the 40s by the end of the week.
Yeah, we're in that 40s period. It was 70 last week. Really fun. Hey, I had a t-shirt on and everything.
Very nice, very nice. Well, you guys did a great job recapping the free agent signings. I want to offer some opinions on a couple of things. Nothing crazy, but I wanted to rebut or reiterate my love for Sam Darnold and more explain my point and support of him. You were pretty hard on the position of he's terrible, he can't overcome a bad offensive line, and JSN is worth nothing moving forward. So in that vein,
that part, right? Close.
Okay. I may have oversold. I may have a little bit of hyperbole there with what I was saying, but I think you said wide receiver 18 for JSN. JSN coming off of a wide receiver 11 season, I want to say, by most scoring formats. I went on FFD with Justin 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said that I was asked a question by Casey because he correctly, I think that Justin pointed out last episode that he called it. He's like, yeah, what do you think about Sam Darnold going to the? So yeah, it was a great call. It was out of left field for me, but I said that everyone on that team immediately becomes a 1. I think that I thought at the time it was before DK had requested his trade. So that DK being removed from the offense does put a damper on what I think for Sam Darnold. But at the same time, with the Kubiak offense, you guys did a good job pointing out it's based on deep shots and play action pass. But I think that Kenneth Walker is going to relieve a lot of the worries about Sam Darnold and the pressure. And also, with making the move of signing Sam Darnold, I fully expect them to draft or 2 offensive linemen in the first 3 rounds this draft. And the 2 offensive linemen they had are supposed to be studs. They just couldn't have them on the field at the same time, which kind of leads me to my broader point of you said something. It kind of ticked me off because you said not good enough. He's not good enough to overcome a bad offensive line. Well, duh. Like, center of quarterbacks in the NFL aren't. Okay, your quarterbacks who can overcome a bad offensive line are Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels list. Period. Give Baker a bad offensive line. Maybe Joe Burrow because everything was bad. Jamar Chase last year. Maybe I'm not even willing to give you Jalen because we've never seen him offensive line. Like Matthew Stafford, first 4 or 5 games of last year of 2024, he played with 3, if not all, of his offensive line starters out, and he looked bad. Like we're like, okay, this is the final year for Matt Stafford. We talked about it on the show at the very beginning. We said this is not good. This is not good offense. He was also, not having his options. Cooper Kupp and Buka both went out early in the season. But I do want to point out that, yes, Sam Darnold without a good offensive line will most likely be bad. However, the vast majority of quarterbacks in the NFL, including even freaking like Tom Brady. The Super Bowls that he lost because his offensive line wasn't able to keep him upright. Like pocket passing quarterbacks need a good offensive line. I think, if those two guys, I cannot remember their names for the life of me, are able to at least keep him upright, and Kenneth Walker can be a pressure release valve for him, I think he'll be just fine. But I just want to push back on what you said. Like, yeah, I'm shocked that a pocket passing quarterback is not going to have a good behind a bad offensive line.
Oh, you're on the nose here, and I was going to let you cook on that one. I'm giving you the floor because I want to hear the case for why I'm wrong on Sam Darnold, because it screams regression to me. And I'm with you. If Charles Cross plays like half a season, we probably aren't having this conversation, and JSN's talking like wide receiver 12. But I've been a little bit worried on that Seahawks offense for some time. Like, I'm a huge Kenneth Walker guy. Don't get me wrong. I love watching that offense, but they have a lot of holes to fill, and they need their guys to stay healthy. And right now, they don't have a wide receiver 2 as well, which with Sam Darnold, that could be an issue. I'm interested to see if it works out, but like, it's a little bit of a scary conundrum to walk into. Like, who would you take Sam Darnold over? Like, let's talk Justin Fields, for example. Justin Fields, would you rather have him or Sam Darnold on your dynasty roster right now?
Okay, so don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not making an argument for Sam Darnold. I'm making an argument for the options that he can support. I think that he can provide enough through the air to keep defenses honest, where Kenneth Walker isn't running against stacked boxes. I think he can run an offense well enough. And if JSN is the only guy there, the only show in town, net of MVS, who just signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Seahawks, if he is the only show in town, I think he's going to see 160 targets. Because we saw this with late stage Marshawn Lynch. We saw it with Russ and Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin was a wide receiver 1. And the people have typecast JSN as a slot guy, and he ran a lot of the slot last year and a little bit of this year. But he wins on the outside. Go look at it, reception. Good night, get your words right. And he wins on the outside. He won on the outside in college. Sam Darnold can throw a good deep ball if he can stay upright. The Clint Kubiak system should be able to get JSN open on those kind of routes. If he is the only show in town, I fully believe that JSN and Kenneth Walker will be ones. I'm willing to stand by that, and I'm willing to bet you whatever you would like that he will outperform wide receiver 18 on the season.
What do you guys typically bet here? Didn't you guys have a fun little betting system, little water bet sort of thing? What was your guys' go-to for that?
Our go-to, and it's going to be a little bit tougher. We're going to have to find our version of this, but there's this breakfast place in Fayetteville called Black Bear Diner, hashtag not a sponsor yet. They're actually in a couple places, I want to say, but they have an awesome breakfast. And we would bet breakfasts at Black Bear Diner. And I think on the season, Justin ended up owing me 5 Black Bear Diner breakfasts, but bring that up at a later date. Oh, yeah. He tried to throw it in my face at one point in the season. He was up 11-10, and then I don't think he won another bet for the rest of the season. So that's what we normally bet. Do what?
I don't think I heard about it after 11-10.
Oh yeah. He tried to rub my nose in that one, and then we just never brought it up as the gap expanded. But we can go ahead and get away from the Seahawks. I just wanted to, I heard what you're saying, and yes, if that offensive line is bad, fully believe Sam Darnold will be bad. But I don't think that they're going to be like bottom half of the league, and I think they'll be good enough for him to support the weapons of the offense. Maybe Sam Darnold isn't a top 15 option this year, but I think his options will be.
I love that argument, and I really hope they bring one more weapon in, because that will change my opinion on this. I haven't seen JSN be a 1 on a team without Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, and that makes a big difference. We saw this with Juju a couple years back with AB leaving. It does make a difference when you're a slot premium guy, and I'll give you his reception perception, fantastic. By the way, love the mix up there, gave me some gets and shiggles. But we were talking deep threats, MVS. Let's talk about a more prominent one, DeMarcus Robinson, MVS of the West.
MVS of the West, DeMarcus Robinson goes to the 49ers. I would consider this an inconsequential signing if Debo hadn't been traded, if half the roster hadn't been let go, if the entire defense wasn't getting revamped apparently, if the rumors weren't out there that they were shopping Brandon Ayuk. DeMarcus Robinson is a capable wide receiver 3/wide receiver 2 in the right situation. I do think that not a lot of credence is being given to Juwan Jennings right now. For some reason, he's really good when given opportunity. So either this is a massive confidence, either this is a massive confidence play in Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk to just be like, hey, we need you guys and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey on a healthy season, and the Jordan Mason that they just gave a second round tender to. They tagged with a second round tender. Excuse me for the verbiage there. I'm not. I think this is more. This has more to do with Juwan Jennings than DeMarcus Robinson or anything that I feel about him fantasy wise. What about you?
Exact same boat. I mean, it gives me some pause on Ricky Pearsall shares. So, like, if you're feeling good about that guy, DeMarcus Robinson does cap that upside, I think, because you aren't talking about a giant target share then. Like, they will spread the ball around. You're still going to have Kittle eat. You're still going to have CMC eat. So, I would love to see a Juwan Jennings as a one season. I've heard a lot of hate on the pod networks these days for Juwan Jennings, saying, well, there's no way he can handle it being a one. What was his 1 week as a one in the 49ers offense last year? Wide receiver 2?
Like 183, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the guy's fantastic. He is a professional receiver, and that's what they need there. Like, he's professional, he stays on the field.
Agreed, and that I was close. It was the 1 week that he got all the targets to himself with both Debo and Brandon Ayuk. Or Brandon Ayuk was coming back, excuse me, until he tore his ACL. But he went 11 of 12 for 175 and 3. I mean, and then he had other breakout games of 10 for 91 and 1, 7 for 90 and 2. The real truth of the matter is, and we need to move on to actual pertinent signings, but
we really do.
The truth of the matter is that he does not matter as much to this offense, and Debo doesn't matter as much to this offense, and Brandon Ayuk doesn't matter as much to this offense, and honestly, CMC doesn't matter as much to this offense as Trent Williams does. That I fully believe that the 49ers and Brock Purdy will go however Trent Williams goes. If he is healthy, then we are looking at 1s and 2s at the positions. And if he is not healthy, we're looking at maybe starting Brandon Ayuk halfway through the season, and probably drafting George Kittle and probably submitting and logging out, in my opinion, right now in the early offseason.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you a little bit. And moving on, we're talking about Des Bryant's making his return to the Ravens, right?
If you by that you are trying to say DeAndre Hopkins, he is on
close.
his third team in 3 years. DeAndre Hopkins, he had a drop in the Super Bowl. He did catch a couple of touchdowns from Patrick Mahomes last year, and the Ravens just seem to be where players go to just finish off their careers. OBJ took a stab at it, and now it's DeAndre Hopkins' turn. How do you think this affects Rashad Bateman and or Zay Flowers, if at all?
So I think it affects Rashad Bateman. I'm not going to say it affects Zay Flowers because I really don't think it does. Like, I think you're looking at a similar target share. Maybe you scale that down 1 or 2%, but he's still looking at around 20% of that target share. They still have tight ends in the building. DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to fill really a similar role he filled for the Chiefs, which is the wide receiver 3 in an offense. And he is a great wide receiver 3, but we started seeing it at the end of that Tennessee tenure where he is less physically imposing than he was early in his career. And it does make a big difference. And we've seen this story a couple times. Like Anquan Bolden, Steve Smith, these guys go to Baltimore at the end of their career, fill a hole. Jim Harbaugh, or John Harbaugh, he loves to bring in a veteran receiver at the end of their tenure because he doesn't often put that first round capital. Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, I believe, were their first two there. And I think he's trying to retread those tires and get another receiving weapon in the building. That being said, I don't think receiving was the issue for Baltimore this year. What's your take on that?
It's a net zero to me. I don't want the tertiary pass catching option because I agree with you that Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. Maybe if you want to make the argument for Isaiah Likely, because Isaiah Likely did have moments where he looked big, strong, fast, athletic, really good hands. But Mark Andrews had an excellent year past the first 4 games or first 2 games, if I remember correctly. No, it was. I think they had 2 full zeros in weeks 3 and 4, if I remember right, and then he started playing like regular Mark Andrews. And I don't want the third pass catching option in this offense. I view last year as the high watermark for Lamar Jackson. That could be wrong, but for a guy to go for 4,000 plus, 40 plus, and then add another 900 yards on the ground with his legs, that's ridiculous. And for him to do that back-to-back season, do what?
That's a watermark. Like, you're correct on that, and you're on the nose. It is a high watermark. The ceiling's still going up for Lamar argument has never been more dead in my mind. Like, we saw it. That was the ceiling.
Which is great. It's a fantastic ceiling. It's really, really, really good. It's a ceiling we've never seen before, by the way. We've never seen a quarterback throw for 4,000 plus and also rush for 900 plus, or I guess he rushed for 891. But he looked awesome. The offense was awesome. He executed it to perfection. I'm not sure how it gets better, so I don't want to. Like the third pass catching option this year was Rashad Bateman. Were you super happy about Rashad Bateman this year? If you were able to guess right on the 4 wide receiver 1 weeks he had on the year, sure. But none of us have our little crystal balls in our pockets, so I don't think you did. But I think that we've kind of beaten this dead horse. I am not moved by the DeAndre Hopkins signing. Doesn't sound like you are either. We can move on to Christian Kirk being traded to Houston Texans. I like this move a lot. I think Christian Kirk stylistically fills some gaps that both Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell were occupying last year. Obviously, he's not going to fill them to the height that they were filling them, but they need bodies in the wide receiver room. I think that Christian Kirk is much more than a Jag at this point in his career. I think he's on his 6th year in the NFL. He already has 1 wide receiver 1 finish, and I mean, he was obviously going to get pushed out of the wide receiver 1 spot because of Brian Thomas Jr. This trade just kind of made sense for both teams in my mind. What was your take?
I think this is Nick Caserio just pulling another A-tier genius move out of his pocket. He did the same thing with Joe Mixon last year, waits until the player is on the brink of being cut, and trades a 7th rounder for them. Makes the contract negotiation easier, brings the guy into the building, gets him in there early. I love this for Christian Kirk. I think it really takes Stephon Diggs off the table for the Texans, and that would be kind of where my head goes. I actually think that at this point in their respective careers, Christian Kirk might be in that same ballpark as Stephon Diggs, so I love them getting him in there, and I think he is going to absolutely thrive on this team.
I love it. The question mark here will be the offensive line. Like if we had offensive line questions for Sam Darnold, how many questions do we have for the offensive line in Houston?
Oh my gosh, all of them. Every single position.
Every position from the center out to both sides. Who's starting next year? So that will, like, Christian Kirk's production will depend on if C.J. Stroud can stay upright for more than 2.1 seconds. And I I think he could be a sneaky value come draft season. I haven't looked at his underdog ADP, but I have been a Christian Kirk guy since he did have his wide receiver one season in Jacksonville. So I think he's going to have like a high end wide receiver 3, back end wide receiver 2 year if DJ Stroud can stay upright.
Yeah, and we're also talking about banged up receiver core. Like Nico Collins never plays 16 games. We have Tank Dell coming off another catastrophic injury. Like he could be coming into a high volume passing game as the number 2 option in that game. Dalton Schultz is getting slower every year.
Dalton Schultz gets slower every play, first off, and I don't think that we're going to see Tank Dell in 2025. Like his injury happened so late and it was so catastrophic. I think that they may have already ruled him out. Or they said like his timeline doesn't make it feasible for him to work back in 2025 into 2026. It does suck because whenever Tank Dell has played, you could see he kind of got going until his injury last year. So it's very disappointing to see. But Hollywood Brown comes back, signs a 1-year deal or 1-year extension, with the Chiefs. Rashee Rice may or may not be experiencing some kind of league suspension. Xavier Worthy he had his charges dropped, so he should not be going into his second year with Patrick Mahomes as a burner, a reconstructed defense. I love that narrative, but with Rashee Rice coming back eventually, with Xavier Worthy coming in, with the Chiefs making this kind of shift, do you think there's room for Hollywood Brown in this receiving room?
No, I don't. I could be wrong on this one, but Hollywood Brown feels like a player who is a tertiary option as well. I feel like we're talking similar to the tier of DeAndre Hopkins, except for we're talking big plays instead of touchdowns. And he'll probably have a couple big plays for the Chiefs, but I'm not inclined to think that their passing game is suddenly going to become top tier this year after being middle of the pack last year. And they traded Joe Thuney. They got him off the roster, so that O-line's not even better than it was last year, and I would argue it wasn't the best O-line in the world last year either. They bring in Eli Mitchell to replace Kareem Hunt, lateral move at best in my mind. I see Hollywood Brown as a wide receiver 3 on an offense that's not top 10 in the league. And it's hard to see him differently. You going to challenge that point? I'd love to hear why I'm wrong on Hollywood. I really want him on my team. He has a cool nickname.
Well, I think he may have actually changed his name to Hollywood because on Sleeper it shows up as Hollywood Brown. But it's no longer a nickname.
It's awesome. Oh,
but
hell yeah!
There is a
change my entire stance. He's going to be a wide receiver 1.
There is a chance that we go back to the Legion of Zoom. I think Justin Reed off the team, Chris Jones another year older, Travis Kelce another year of declining. Thankfully, love to see it. There is an option here for another pass catcher to step up, and I think there is a necessity for it. I think there's more so of a necessity for it than there is the opportunity. It is so tough for me, even as a Chiefs hater, to speak very kind things about Patrick Mahomes, but he is awesome. And I think if you give him competent receivers that are healthy, that are consistently healthy, which has not been Hollywood's calling card, and a defense that can't hold teams to 21 points and under, and a division now that is looking pretty good, like the Chargers. So we're about to talk about one of their signings here. We can talk about him next. But Chargers look really good. The Broncos were a playoff team for the first time in a while last year. The Raiders signed Pete Carroll, and they add in Geno Smith, and they're rumored to be adding Tyler Lockett. And those were my 3 kind of check boxes for the Raiders for me to be in on Brock Bowers as a first-round pick. I was talking to Justin about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, I wanted a good head coach, I wanted a new quarterback, and I wanted just some other pass-catching option. And ding, 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 we've got Pete Carroll, one of the best head coaches at minimizing mistakes. We've got Tyler Lockett, who is still got some tread left on the tires. He's not commanding, any kind of great salary, but he's got some tread left. And we've got Geno Smith, a very capable quarterback who has a familiarity with Pete Carroll's system. So I think that I I think this division is really good now. And I think the Chiefs are going to have to play a lot of high-scoring games to win these ball games because their defense is not what it was last year and the year before. So that's my entire case for Hollywood and really just the Kansas City Chiefs offense to be relevant is that it's going to be out of necessity.
Okay, Rick, like I think we're going to have to be on the same page here because like as someone who has a fiance who has a lot of friends that are Taylor Swift fans, like we just have to believe that the Chiefs will be bad at some point, right? Like there's got to be some hope there.
I have been looking up all the witch's brew information. I've got eyes of multiple newts. I have got a mortar and pestle in my closet right now. I've been chanting, bring in the rain. And all I could get so far was a Super Bowl loss by 1,000,000 points, and I was okay with that. And that might be what we have to.
That's something.
That is something. Okay, but we can go ahead and move on. This is. We can go ahead and move on to that signing that I was speaking about. Najee Harris to the Chargers. This was originally reported as 1 year, $9.5 million. It has since been kind of edited to 1 year, I think $5 million, and he's got $4.5 million built in incentives. J.K. Dobbins is officially he's a free agent. It was just a 1 year deal that he got, so he is off the team. They might bring him back, but currently he's off. Najee Harris's greatest ability that he still brings to a football team is availability. And he is willing to run up the middle just like J.K. Dobbins was for 3.5 yards a carry. And I guess, J.K. Dobbins was willing to run more, but Najee Harris, all he's willing to offer you is 3.5 yards a carry at this point. But I liked this signing a lot. And I'm not a real Najee fan. He doesn't look explosive. He catches the ball, but it's not usually at a high efficiency type of catch. I don't. If they brought J.K. Dobbins back, I would be very fearful. But if I have Najee Harris as a dynasty owner, I'm trying to sell him. What would you be willing to accept as a trade offer if you had Najee Harris right now in a dynasty league?
Oh my gosh, I do have Najee Harris in a dynasty league.
Me too.
And I'll be honest, man, I'm hyped. Like, J.K. Dobbins isn't in the building right now, and I would kind of want a first for him because let me spin you a yarn real fast. This guy, Jim Harbaugh, he was a college coach. He had a QB with ridiculous arm talent. He didn't necessarily have the best receiving core, but he had an excellent 3-down running back that he didn't blow your mind or anything, but he got 3.5 yards, and they sure gave him every opportunity to break a long one. That sounds like what he wants to do with Najee Harris, and I'm pretty excited. Like the juices are flowing. I feel like the Najee Harris share that I had last year that I was like, this might be dead, is entirely back to life. Like, are you on the other side of this coin? Would you actually try and sell him?
If I would take it. If I got offered a first in this draft class, I would take it. But
in this draft class, for sure.
I'm kind of the same mind. Given opportunity, Najee Harris is good. And given opportunity behind a great offensive line, which I think that they kind of project to be, I could see him finishing as a top 14 running back next year. I think he's going to have double-digit touchdowns because I expect this offense to move up and down the field because it did last year, the first year of Jim Harbaugh's tenure here. And I think that this is good for the offense. I'm not entirely sure this is good for Harris, but I think this offense is going to work much more seamlessly with a guy who can get on the field and stay on the field and be durable. But having had Najee Harris on a couple of dynasty teams and having watched him just slowly decline from his rookie year, it's tough to say, oh, well, now he's going to be good. Like, no, he wasn't good last year before that. Do what?
He's so slow. He's like the
He is so
slowest
slow.
running back
Also,
I've ever seen.
the Pittsburgh offensive line is bad. It is bad. It
Eh.
was bad. It was bad 2 years ago. But then you have Jalen Warren looking like he's shot out of a cannon every time he gets handed the ball. So it's hard to make that argument. But by all the metrics and by your eyeballs, it's a bad offensive line. So I don't know how to reconcile those two. We did just get a news alert. If you were paying attention to your phone, Rico Dowdle signs a 1-year deal with the Carolina Panthers, who released Miles Sanders 2 days ago. Rico
That's
Dowdle, who's
bummer
fresh
for
off of a
Rico.
1,000-yard season. So, yeah, I mean, congrats to Rico Dowdle for landing that backup job to Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah. I mean, he is very much a handcuff at this point, and to be honest, in Dynasty, he might be even less than that because Brooks is coming back eventually, and I really doubt that they want Rico to be the long-term backup in Carolina.
I think that right now the plan looks like the long-term back is Chuba Hubbard because Jonathan Brooks took so long to come back from his initial ACL and then he re-tears his ACL. I imagine that he will miss most of, if not all, of the 2025 campaign. At the quarterback position, the most interesting signing to me, the most interesting signing was Justin Fields. But
Did
you
you
guys already
highlight
talked about it.
this by? Did you highlight this one by accident?
Not at all. Not at all. And honestly, this has nothing to do with the player. This has to do with the conversation around the entire quarterback room. It's Daniel Jones. He goes to the Colts for 1 year, $13 million, I want to say. If you look at their numbers over the games played last season, it's insane how similar they are. Like the QBR, yards, touchdown to interception ratio, it is wild how similar they are in those statistics. And I think that's going to be an actual QB battle.
Oh my! I sure hope not. If it is, that is indicting on Anthony Richardson. You've been in this offense for what now? We're going into year 3. You should have a grasp on it to hold off Danny Dimes, but I'm with you. I was looking through the stats before this, and I was like, oh my gosh, they might be the same player. But Daniel Jones looks so much worse doing it.
He doesn't get the style points. He doesn't get the back-footed 65 yards in
No
the air
player.
touchdown kind of throws. But he's got a rocket for an arm. It's a very inaccurate rocket,
does.
but it is a rocket attached to his shoulder. He's got legs. Like I like the move from the organization, honestly, not just to cause the competition, but also like Anthony Richardson has gone out of multiple games now with injuries. He missed most of his rookie season with an injury, and you bring in a quarterback who is very similar stylistically to what you already have. So you teach both guys the offense, and you don't have to limit the offense down to 60, 70% of what it should be with Daniel Jones being your backup. So I really like the signing. And if this actually turns into a QB battle and the beat reporters are like, holy cow, this is an issue, I think that's very damning for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I think we will. This is one of those ones where you can learn something in the preseason and really pay attention to that battle, pay attention to the nomenclature, pay attention to Colts beats reporters, especially if you're an A-rich dynasty owner, because if you start seeing that writing on the wall, the little, Daniel Jones was really great in 7-on-7 today, get him off your roster. Sell while you can.
I fully agree. Evan Engram signs a 2-year, $23 million deal to go to Denver to play with the Broncos, giving them another receiving option alongside of Cortland Sutton for Bo Nix and the Sean Payton offense. I love this signing. I think this is the closest thing that Sean Payton could get to the Jimmy Graham, to the I won't say that the Joker role of a Taysom Hill type. He loves to involve the tight end in the passing game and just the tight end in general. Juwan Johnson's highest touchdown reception season came the last season of Sean Payton's career at New Orleans. So I don't I don't know if this means fantastic things for Evan Engram. I think this opens up the entire offense for Bo Nix and takes a little bit of the pressure away from Courtland Sutton. How'd you feel about that signing?
Hey, I mean, Sean Payton loves a tight end. But Evan Engram, he is the exact archetype that Sean Payton is looking for. More athletic than any other guy on the field, bigger, able to make those plays, but still a flawed player. And I think Sean Payton kind of falls for that too, where he's like, I can fix this player. He saw Taysom Hill and he was like, oh, I can fix him. He doesn't really know football, but we'll get him out there. Like, he saw Juwan Johnson, and he's like, you're not very good at receiver, but you sure would be good at just running a drag route across the field every play. I think this could be an excellent end to Evan Ingram's career, which is kind of crazy productive to this point. And I'm thrilled that guy ended up pulling it together, because midway through that Giants tenure he had, there was a lot of hate. Like, it was like Kyle Pitts level of hate for Evan Engram.
It was, because he had such a good rookie year comparative to how, I mean, for the time, rookie tight ends didn't produce, and now we're on 2 years in a row of rookie tight ends being tight end one. It's an odd place to be in, to be projecting success for Evan Engram at this point, having had the thoughts and the prognostications that we were having his second, third, and fourth year in the league.
It really is. And Bo Nix has to be ecstatic about this. Like, it's kind of funny to look back at those first couple weeks of Bo Nix and be like, it's crazy that everyone was saying he was done, absolutely busted, terrible pick when he was throwing to who even was the receiving core then? Was it Vele still, or was it Mims?
It was Devon Vele, Courtland Sutton. I think that, let me see. Did they have Little Jordan Humphrey was coming out of the backfield a little bit and a little bit in the slot?
Little Jordan Humphrey, awesome name.
Little Jordan. But yeah, it was. Yeah, it was not exactly a who's who in the wide receiver room, but now we've got a little bit of options, and I wouldn't be surprised if they take a day 2 or 3 pick on a wide receiver to try to bolster that room a little bit. Cooper Kupp was officially released by the Rams. You guys talked about it a little bit with the Davante Adams signing. Cooper Kupp to what team would cause the most change, I guess, in how you view those options?
I thought you were going to ask my favorite spot, and I was going to throw Patriots at you real fast. But you know what? I'll throw in the Seahawks, because I think Cooper Kupp signing there would actually change my opinion of JSN a lot. I don't think he's going there. I don't think there's any chance they bring him in. But that spot, or on the Jets. If he's on the Jets, Garrett Wilson's absolutely tanked as well.
Interesting. Okay. What if he goes to the Raiders? What if he stays West Coast and goes to the Raiders? I guess there's not really West Coast, but Nevada.
Yeah, sort of. I hate to say that it wouldn't bother me as much, because I think Brock Bowers is immune. Like, it feels early to say that, but Brock Bowers kind of feels like that, like, George Kittle, Travis Kelce sort of player, where it's like, you should be happy you're bringing in players around him, because he was the only option on the field last year, and he was clearly able to step up to it. So I'm inclined to say that would only raise my opinion of the Raiders' offense as a whole, because they need somebody in that building to catch footballs.
Agreed. We can run through these next few guys pretty quickly. Darius Slayton signs 3 years for $36 million, I believe. It was kind of funny because it was
Crazy.
like the deal that Saquon wanted. That's what they gave to Darius Slayton. How do you still have a job, man? Like, your belief in your job security is wild at this point. But let's say that the Giants end up drafting a Cam Ward, and he gets to come into a retained Darius Slayton, a second-year Malik Neighbors, a I mean, if you want to throw, why can't I think of the
Wandale.
running back name?
Tyrone
Tracy.
Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have Tyrone Tracy, and you still have Devin Singletary in the backfield. I don't think that's a bad offense. I mean, again, I went on I think the FFD pod a couple weeks ago, and I said, this offense is terrible. And I mean, dudes lit me up in the comments like, he doesn't know our offensive line died in the middle of the season. I was like, your offense was never alive. What are you mad at me for? Like, you're a bad team. Like, what is the issue here? The one bright shining spot in your roster was Malik Neighbors, and it was yeah. But I don't think that Cam Ward maybe fixes that. But does the Darius Slayton signing? Let's say they also get Cam Ward. Does that give you any kind of impetus for drafting Slayton, since they obviously have belief in him?
See, I want to say yes, but do they obviously have belief in him? They had him on a contract before this, and they didn't use him whatsoever. I would love to say yes. I feel like Darius Slayton's one of the most underused players in the NFL, because the second you give him a target share, he looks like wide receiver 2, but they haven't done it to this point. I would love to see that, and I would love to see Cam Ward get in there. By the way, high belief in your job security is diabolical. I absolutely love that. I'm stealing that one.
Okay. You're more than welcome to it. The only reason that I would push back on that even a little bit, and I'm inclined to agree with you, but is their offensive line has been cheeks. Just so like omega level booty cheeks. And like Daniel, that's why I tried to hold my reservation, or I had to hold on to, I don't know how to say this, hold on to my judgment, reserve my judgment for Daniel Jones, because he's had like 1.8 seconds or less to get rid of the ball the majority of his career. And the majority of his career, he has had no one to throw to besides Saquon Barkley and Darius Slayton. And like you say, Darius Slayton, when he gets the ball thrown to him, he looks like a really good wide receiver 2. Okay, like your offense can't be predicated on just Saquon and just Darius Slayton when you have a terrible offensive line, and also your quarterback isn't that good. So I think that we may not have seen the best of Darius Slayton. And at the beginning of his career, he was still overshadowed by Kenny Galladay as well, because he had just gotten a massive contract that was too big for what he produced, which was nothing.
So big. Yeah.
But I'm willing to, like, if they draft Cam Ward and if the offensive line is healthy going into the season, I would be willing to take like a secondary wide receiver for the Saints last year. Rashid Shaheed. I'd be willing to take like a Rashid Shaheed level of shot on Darius Slayton in the draft.
I feel that. I want to agree with you. In my heart, I agree with you, but I'm trying to embrace the unders this year, and this is one. I'm not getting fooled again on this one. Speaking of guys we aren't getting fooled again on, Josh Palmer, 3 for $36 million on those Bills. That is so not worth talking about. Matt Collins replacement, real expensive.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Palmer has had multiple opportunities to be a 1 with, I mean, I think that Justin Herbert is on par, if not slightly better than Josh Allen as a passer. And if you aren't able to do what?
Same tier.
Yeah, same tier of a passer as Josh Allen. And if you weren't able to show out with Justin Herbert, you're not going to show out in a system that is predicated on the run game. And you're right, we don't have to talk about this. I think this may affect Khalil Shakir a little bit, and they're going to occupy the same parts of the field, but Khalil Shakir got a much larger extension. So, I feel like we can just run through the running backs and get out of here. What do you think?
Yeah, let's hit it.
We already talked about Najee Harris to the Chargers. Jordan Mason was retained with a second-round tender that I don't think anybody will match, especially with the draft class being as strong as it is. We already talked about the Panthers cutting Myles Sanders. The Cowboys, Jerry Jones with his big brain moves lets Rico Dowdle go. The guy who is already ingratiated in your system, coming off a 1,000-yard season, lets him go, does not re-sign him. And instead, you sign Javonte Williams who looked so bad. Like, I'm a Javonte truther, and he looked so bad last year. It was hard to watch. He had like 2 good games, if I remember, 2 RB1 weeks, and the rest of them were completely unusable, nigh embarrassing. So, yeah, and your all pro, all world center retires this year, Zach Martin, and Dak Prescott coming off injury, CeeDee Lamb he didn't finish the season coming off injury. I don't know why you wouldn't want more continuity in this offense. This just seems like a fumble by the Cowboys.
I mean, this is one of the most Cowboy moves you can see. Like, let's get Javonte in there to run next to Zeke Elliott so that we can see who the slowest running back in the NFL is. Like, I'm so bummed that the Cowboys ended up with Javonte because I wanted to see him end up in that Chargers spot and like see if a real O-line gives him a bit more wiggle. Because I'm a truther for him too. I love the guy. That one brief spell before the injury where he looked really good was some of the most fun football you're gonna see. I love a running back just plowing over guys. Like Monty was one of my favorites, and he reminded me of Monty.
Yep, running to and through contact with aggression. It was fun to watch when it was there. And I put this in here because I think it's valuable. Kenneth Gainwell goes to the Steelers. I don't know what the deal is, but when given opportunity behind a really good offensive line, he did not look bad. And if we know anything about Jalen Warren, he's not going to finish a full season. So, and we have seen kind of a movement away from the center line by Mike Tomlin of using just a single back. He was very willing to use Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. We had games where Najee Harris had 15 opportunities, 16 opportunities, 13 opportunities, 15, 17. Like, looking at what could be a 2-back system in my mind, and to me, these guys profile very similarly. I don't think that Kenny Gainwell has the burst that Jalen Warren does, but they can both run the ball. They can both come out of the backfield and catch passes. It kind of depends on who the quarterback's going to be, but I think that Kenny Gainwell there is very interesting.
I think so too. It's not too long ago that we were talking about if Gainwell would take that starting job from DeAndre Swift and end up above Boston Scott on the pecking order too. Like, he has been a player that metric starlings love, and they have been trying to shove him down our throat for a couple years now. So I think this is a great time to take the discount because him signing with the Steelers, I don't think is going to get the coverage that it should. And I think he's probably the only other guy other than Jalen Warren that they're going to bring into the building. And I could be wrong there, but I don't think they're bringing in a high round running back. Like, what goal? What does that accomplish for them?
Not much, especially when you have capital you have to spend on a quarterback. You have an offensive line that needs shoring up. Your wide receiver room is taken care of, but I think they've got holes in the defense as well. It seems like I think that they might bring in one more guy. I think that any running back room needs at least 3. If you've got 2 guys, that's not enough. But I cannot remember who they got a third. They've got a third string running back. I cannot remember his name.
I know who you're talking about.
He has man. Yeah, you can go ahead and pull it up. But I think that this Kenneth Gainwell signing, it's going to be something to watch. Just something to watch. To round us out here, Juwan Johnson does re-sign with the Saints. And with that, we've kind of gone through the wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, and running backs that have been moderately significant. Do you remember? Did you get it?
Cordero Patterson.
Oh, was he signed to a multi-year deal?
He's still on the roster.
Okay. And then there's signs that we were waiting to see hit: Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and see if Kirk Cousins does change teams. I know the Browns have reportedly shown interest in Kirk Cousins. But yeah, that's we're kind of waiting for those shoes to drop. Is there anybody else off the top of your head that we're waiting for?
There's those old injured receivers. Like, we still got Stephon Diggs sitting out there. I think we're gonna see him out there for a while, though. Sadly.
Not sadly. I'm fine with that. But I think that we are actually at time. We can go ahead and get out of here from our free agent part 2 review. Thank you all very much for listening, liking, downloading, subscribing, rating, reviewing, all that fun stuff. You guys, One Pod FF on the socials, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, and FSAN. That's the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. I am Brick316 on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. Our co-host who is off the show today is Chev90. Addison is Nardog on there. Addison, do you want to drop the League Champ socials?
Oh, always. We are at Duck League Champ on Insta and Twitter, and we are at League.champ on TikTok. So check us out there and at the Google Play and iOS store.
Thank you all very much for listening. Y'all have a good night.